Australia, the home for animals that's always ready to kill you, and even the sun wants to put you on a headline as well. I believe some of you may have heard of the mystical drop bear, but what if I tell you that it's not a myth? You were just born in the wrong generation. Okay, saying drop bears exist isn't entirely accurate because they are just a myth made up by Australians. But a fearsome relative of the koalas did exist in Australia. Introducing Thylacoleo, Thylacine, Australia's answer to the apex mammalian predator question. Looking remarkably similar to a cat, so much so that it was dubbed the marsupial lion by paleontologists. Today, we will talk about the famous marsupial lion and Tasmanian tiger. Then through them, answer the question, what is convergent evolution? Thylacoleo shared many similarities with placental mammals, especially with felids. This is an excellent example of convergent evolution. One look at them and you can see that their body plan closely mimics that of a leopard, only average out at around 100 kilograms, approaching the weight of a lioness, but their jaw is even more fascinating. The jaws of the modern carnivores, which include bears, dogs, cats, hyenas and more, have modified teeth called the carnassial, comprising of the fourth upper premolar and the first lower molar. The carnassial is sharp, suited for shearing and biting off flesh to help the animal to effectively feed on meat. The Thylacoleo took this adaptation even further, evolving the third upper and lower premolars into massive blades to help with shearing flesh of the unfortunate victim. These are currently the biggest carnassial compared to body size known from any mammals. Their other molars were reduced significantly, leaving no flattened surfaces to help with chewing. It's clear that they were very specialized for carnivory. Their incisors superficially resembled those of rodents, but much bigger and sharper, giving them an even more nasty bite. In doing so, Thylacoleo sacrificed their other teeth, reduced to give space for their carnassial and incisors. Much like the Tasmanian devil today, it had pound for pound the strongest bite in the mammal family. Thanks to their large jaw muscle, which took the place for more brain capacity, as well as their foreshortened skull, giving it an even more cat-like look. Thylacoleo, instead of suffocating prey like modern cats, used their powerful jaws to crush and sever windpipes or major arteries. They also had an enlarged claw on each of their thumbs to aid with restraining prey and possibly climbing. Thylacoleo's body plan is quite robust and based on its skeletal anatomy, weren't very fast, which led researchers to think it was an ambush predator. Researchers initially rejected the idea of an arboreal predator due to its huge and robust body. However, a study in 2016 by Australian paleontologist Stephen Rowe, Professor Jeffrey Thomason of the University of Guelph, and Dr. Colin McHenry on their claw marks found inside of a cave in southwestern Australia suggested that they were decent climbers. Interestingly, the study also showed that there were a lot of claw marks from younger individuals, further suggesting that Thylacoleo, similar to the Tasmanian devils, may have dens to shelter their cubs from danger. The genus Thylacoleo belongs to the family Thylacoleonidae that includes other similar genus such as Wachaleo, Microleo, Enigmaleo, and Lecanaleo. Currently, it is believed that Thylacoleonidae belongs to the clade Wombatiformes, which makes wombat and koalas the closest living relatives to the marsupial lion. The genus Thylacoleo itself has three recognized species: Thylacoleo carnifex, which is the biggest and also the type species that we have been talking about. Other than carnifex, there's also Thylacoleo healey and Thylacoleo crassidentatus. When the extinction of the Australian Pleistocene megafauna, including Thylacoleo, happened is still a big question mark in the world of paleontology, but it is generally agreed that Thylacoleo died out around 46,000 years ago. The cause for this extinction, whether it's because of human or climate change, is still being heavily debated today. Even though Australia lost its lion over 40,000 years ago, its existence shows us how nature can reinvent the same predator many times over. Much like the Thylacoleo, Thylacine was the Australian equivalent of a wolf. It was so anatomically similar to canids that it is sometimes used to test students on whether the skull is from a thylacine or an actual canid. Thylacinus cynophilus, or the Tasmanian tiger, first evolved during the early Pleistocene in southeastern Australia, roughly 1.77 to 0.78 million years ago. They coexisted with the Aboriginal people that later arrived at Australia and ultimately gone extinct in mainland Australia 3,200 years ago. On Tasmania, they persisted until the 19th century. The last thylacine outside of Australia died in 1931 at the London Zoo, and the last thylacine known died in 1936 at the Hobart Zoo. They were officially declared extinct by 1986, marking yet another incredible species lost to time. Thylacine would have resembled a large short-haired dog, around 1 to 1.3 meters from head to tail, standing at 50 to 65 centimeters and weighing from 15 to 35 kilograms. They had smooth, stiff tail, much like those of kangaroos, and a skull highly convergent with canids, especially the red fox. Thylacine would have had a yellow coat with black stripes running across its body, which earned it the nickname Tasmanian tiger. Their jaws were just as interesting as their distant cousin, the Thylacoleo, being able to open it to an impressive 80 degrees. It was very muscular, but probably too weak to kill big animals like sheep. Much like other marsupial, the Tasmanian tiger had a pouch, but interestingly, open to the rear of the body. Their claws were non-retractable with a distinct footprint. It is noted that they could not run at high speed due to its stiff and unusual gait, but they could do a bipedal hop, not unlike the kangaroos. The Tasmanian tiger was the apex predator of its ecosystem, but the size of their prey is still being widely debated. They were mostly nocturnal and a hypercarnivore, meaning over 70% of their diet is composed of meat. Thylacine were once thought to have a keen sense of smell, like those of dogs, but on closer analysis in 2006 by zoologist Joan Dixon revealed that the olfactory bulbs, which were responsible for smelling, were less well developed than we previously thought. Paleontologists now believe that the Thylacine would have used primarily their sense of sight and sound to hunt prey instead. It is noted that they would growl and hiss when agitated, often paired with a threat yawn. During hunting, Thylacine would likely have communicated with other pack members by emitting barks which were described to sound like yip-yap. Even though they were undoubtedly impressive predators, we now think that they were rarely responsible for the attacks of farm animals of European settlers. Instead, most were attributed to feral dogs. The genus Thylacinus belongs to the family Thylacinidae that includes 12 other less understood animals. Currently, it is believed that Thylacinidae belongs to the order Daciromorphia, which makes numbats, crows, and Tasmanian devils the closest living relatives to the Tasmanian tiger. The genus Thylacinus includes several other species, but thylacine is only represented by Thylacinus cynocephalus. It is speculated that the number and genetic diversity of the thylacine have been decreasing since the extinction of Australian megafaunas 40,000 years ago, being outcompeted by the newly introduced dingoes, as well as the increased human activities drove thylacine to extinction on the mainland. On Tasmania, wild thylacine population remain around 5,000 specimens. The nail in the coffin for them is when numerous sheepata were credited to them, and in 1830, bounties were put on their head for just £1, which resulting in farmers and bounty hunters killing them on sight, effectively decimating the wild population completely, and from 1930 onwards, no wild thylacine were ever documented. Now let's jump to the question, what is convergent evolution? Convergent evolution is a natural phenomenon that's basically Mother Nature gets lazy and reuse old ideas on new species. Imagine it as two people can both think of the same answer independently from each other. These creatures evolved similar traits independently from each other because they were faced with similar challenges. Examples of convergent evolution are how birds, mammals, pterosaurs, and insects all evolved powered flight, or how sharks, dolphins, and ichthyosaurs have almost the identical body plan despite being vastly different. So why does convergent evolution occur? Every species, through natural selection, evolves to take advantage of the limited resources in nature. Some specialize to be a fast predator, others specialize to be a large grazer, and even an aquatic piscivore, almost like a job in nature. These are called niches. Every species occupies a niche, and through competition and natural selection, only one species usually will remain and occupy that niche. This is called niche partitioning. And sometimes, animals that occupy similar niche could convergently evolve on the same traits because it is successful for that specific role. Convergent evolution is also the reason why animals keep evolving into crabs. This process is called carcinization, where crustaceans over time will develop crab-like traits. The reason for carcinization is not yet agreed upon, but there are some hypotheses. Maybe the crab body plan is the peak generalist body and provides advantages for survival, or it may not necessarily provide clear benefit but is more flexible. A long tail is nice. It gives the animal speed and agility to hunt and run from predator, but it is occupying a lot of limited space of the crustacean body. A crab does not have this problem, freeing up their other body parts. According to Joanne Wolf, a research associate in organismic and evolutionary biology at Harvard University, crabs and crustaceans are similar to Lego creations, where it could be swapped out independently without affecting other parts, unlike vertebrates, where the function of one part can affect the entire body. This is how, despite being isolated for over 50 million years, marsupial evolved to have similar form to placental mammals independently, a reminder that while evolution can't copy genes, it certainly copies ideas. Evolution is beautifully complex, and it's fascinating how the same trait or creature can be evolved many times independently of each other. The Thylacine and Thylacoleo perfectly exemplifies convergent evolution with their awesome fossils and histories. And from the story of the Thylacine, we can learn a lesson on preservation and how much human can affect an environment. I don't think it's a coincidence that there are so many ambitious research projects that aim to revive the Thylacine. The Tasmanian tiger is a terrific creature and truly one of humanity's worst mistakes in the recent century, alongside with the dodos, passenger pigeons, northern white rhinos, just to name a few. If we don't stop and think about what we're doing, fascinating creatures like the vaquita, a mini whale that's only 1.5 meters long, which there are less than 15 in the wild, will disappear in our lifetime. Currently, we may not be able to bring back extinct species, but we have a choice to not lose more.